Well, we understand that the Uttarakhand tragedy has put a risk for the northeast, because now experts are saying, the environmentalists are saying that there is a risk for Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh in more particular. Well, we have Urmi Bhattacharjee, environmental journalist and consultant with International Rivers California, and also joining us to discuss on this issue, Ratnadeep Chaudhary, principal correspondent Tehelka, an expert on northeast affairs. Welcome to this program. Well, I would like to put my first question to Urmi. The cloud burst seems to be the major issue which led to the disaster and mayhem in Uttarakhand. So now we are saying that the seismic zone of northeast, with particular reference to Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim, where the experts are saying that there can be a Uttarakhand-like situation here. So how do you take on this?
Of course, there can be a situation like Uttarakhand in Sikkim and Arunachal in particular, because if you see in Uttarakhand, in 10 days time, there was a series more than half a dozen of cloud bursts. Now, cloud burst is such a thing that a natural phenomena that can actually never be predicted. Forget northeast, because we do not have the basic infrastructure or any kind of weather forecasting systems which can actually predict a disastrous situation like cloud burst. How important it is if you talk about that. Cloud burst had actually in 1975 led to one of the world's lesser talked about but the most highly important engineering failures in China. In fact, a deadly situation like cloud burst has led to one of the world's worst man-made disaster in China. In fact, a series of cloud bursts happened there, and in 24 hours more than 1 year of rainfall happened, and people were totally not prepared for it. Bangkok Dam along with 62 other dams collapsed in a row, and thousands of people died out of floods, many died out of epidemics, and this disaster is known as one of the worst engineering failures that history has ever noticed. Why northeast is prone to it? Because this is a high precipitation zone, and geologists have more than often predicted the possibility of cloud bursts. Now, the private developers and the public developers who are building dams, they are designing spillways of dams based on annual flood discharge. Now, obviously, in a situation like cloudburst, the spillways of the dams can prove inadequate, and suddenly no one can predict the amount of rainfall. What do we do in such a situation? How can we tackle such a situation? Well, I think there is some serious introspection that needs to be done in a place like northeast.
Well, Urmi will come on that, but now we'll just move with Ratnadeep Chaudhary, who has been observing situations in northeast, especially when it comes to dam construction. We have seen there has been massive protests in Assam as well as Arunachal Pradesh, but now we are saying that northeast have remained silent to the Uttarakhand mayhem, and now we are seeing that experts are saying, and we were just hearing Urmi, that there is a prediction and there is a danger zone which we are saying about northeast. So how do you see to this situation?
See, Saidul, for the last 2 years, I have been personally as a reporter trying to look into this aspect of public resentment against big dams, particularly in Arunachal Pradesh, and the obvious impact in Assam and on the other parts downstream. So what we saw is, like, from 2008 onward, there has been a bit of public resentment. Until 2010-11, there has been a lot of public resentment. But ever since this dam developers have gone ahead, rather I would say the Ministry of Environment and Forest and the respective state government, particularly the Arunachal Pradesh government, actually went on giving permissions, the necessary clearances, without there were situations, there were cases which has come up to media where proper public hearing was not done. Subsequently, what we have seen is that the protest also in some places have withered away. This because there have been a lot of local politics is getting associated with it. There is lack of awareness in terms of the local population as to what may
there
be
are different kinds of opinions. Some say that dam is necessary, but what figures we have that whatever dam we are constructing in Lower Subanchi or the one we are talking about Tista in Sikkim, it is learned that around 19% of the total energy will be utilized in northeast, but the rest will go outside the region. So in such a situation, do you think that a state like Sikkim, which is building dams like bumper to bumper dams, they are having so many, over 150 dams are being given permission. Of course, the project has not yet started. I think that's a good sign. So how are we taking this?
Well, things are going very apathetically, that's for sure, because I mean, talking of Sikkim and Arunachal, most of the MOUs that are signed even before any kind of tests have been done, the preliminary test or feasibility, they are taking upfront money. Now upfront money actually is giving a pressure on the government to clear up the projects at a speedier rate. There is no point in taking an upfront money before you actually do some kind of feasibility studies, and which is when the private developers are forcing the government to actually get their projects cleared. So this is how things are going, very apathetically, and I think unless some serious introspection is there, we are actually heading towards disaster.
But our hills are very, very fragile,
Right.
and as we are talking about, flood is a natural thing in Assam, and
Absolutely.
every year we see hundreds of people dying in flood in Assam. But now Arunachal Pradesh is one state which, of course, there is flood is there in the lower part of Arunachal Pradesh, especially the Siang. But now in a situation where we are saying that environmentalists have hype up the matter, where there can be a situation where we are talking about disaster in Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh. So government has not taken up any steps, or there is, as Urmi was saying, that there is no measures actually to identify whether there can be a cloudburst in the region. But there are already hints coming in that there can be a situation where we can see some disaster in the states.
See, Sadhu, let's look at one another issue, incident of cloudburst which happened in 2010 in Leh. Now that was the devastation was not as enormous as it has happened in Uttarakhand. Leh was, to me, was an indicator, was a warning sign to India that look into your Himalayan region. You are building dams on your Himalayan region. You're trying to draw energy out of your rivers. You're trying to cut through the forest, and you are playing with nature. Leh was an indicator India choose to overlook. Now Uttarakhand has happened. I think this is the second indicator. This is the next target, may be the next unfortunate region, maybe northeast. Now coming on to northeast, if I can very shortly say, look at the last 2 years. There have been, we journalists have come across several reports of flash floods in different areas of Arunachal Pradesh. Flash floods are occurring in Assam. Assam has an annual, floods are annually happening in Assam. This is nothing new for Assam, but flash floods are happening. Flash floods are happening in Mizoram, in Tripura. So there is an impact of, if you look at the eastern Himalaya, there is a huge impact of climate change already on the eastern Himalayan region. Now you have India, China, and even Bangladesh trying to harness the power potential of Brahmaputra. And there is lack of sharing of data. Even the data on Brahmaputra are not easily available. So as to say what would happen is very difficult even for journalists. Now another thing which becomes very important is that we talk about public resentment. We talk about opposition. There has been stiff opposition. But the big question is that whether the government is really keen about taking this opposition into consideration. I don't think so. It's all about politicking, and it's all about making money out of those dams. There are 160 odd MOUs which have been signed. Then there is not much initiative from lot of the power developers whose projects have gone through, which have passed. They are not trying to.
The power dam construction, the 2000 megawatt in Lower Subansiri, is in an eye of a controversy with NGOs and civil bodies in Assam as well as Arunachal Pradesh protesting. Now here is a situation where the Chief Minister of Uttarakhand says that building dams is not an issue. It is something to do with nature, and the Met Department could not predict the cloudburst. But here we are seeing that as we are saying time and again, the Sikkim model and as well as the Arunachal Pradesh model, where dams are being built like some kind of parking lot. So in such a situation now, today there is an example of Uttarakhand where we have seen massive devastation. Is it the right time for Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim to think on this issue?
This is in fact, this is the highest possible warning that you can actually get. What are we waiting for now? Yeah, of course, there was in the news a few days back that Nabamtuk is already taking some kind of measures. But there again, we do not have adequate transparency that what measures is he actually taking.
True.
Is it all an eyewash? We need more details, that what exactly are you doing? What about decommissioning projects? What about scrapping some projects? What about agreeing to losses to save nature? Are we doing that? So that should be the big question.
I think there is one thing I want to add is that there is a discourse. There is a discourse of development versus saving nature. Now power is required. Northeast also for its development requires power. I think we have to look at in a holistic way. Now few days back, just a week back, in Tripura, a 750 or 725 megawatt power generation plant has been dedicated to the nation by the president. Now this plant is a unique plant. This is the first ever gas based power generation project in the country, and it is also, if I am not wrong, one of the biggest in Southeast Asia, and it is going to generate green energy. Now we need to look at how we meet our power requirement, how we bring in more power generation capacity and develop our region without not doing much damage to the
Ratnadev, you are right that
region.
we need power plants, we need to generate power in different better possible ways maybe, but now today we are saying that hundreds of dams are being given permission, and that also without taking into consideration the environmental guidelines, because we have been given to understand that all these rules, environmental norms have been flaunted. So I would like to take your last reaction on both the states, maybe to begin with Urmi.
See, I feel like Ratnadeep just said that there is no point in destroying what you already have and get something new to the region. This region is blessed because of many reasons. That includes its river, pristine rivers, and the landscape. So why change it and alter it to harness something out of it? Why don't you try feasible source of energy? Why don't you tap more on solar and wind? Agreed, it's more said than done, but then the thought process should be heading towards that, I feel, as an environment journalist. But then there is no point absolutely in just destroying nature and trying to create something which can cause further disaster to nature.
Thank you, Urmi. Ratnadev, your last take on this.
My last take is very clear. First, the government has to come clear with its commitment, whether commitment is in terms of building these dams to develop power. If it is developing power, then there should be a more holistic approach. Right now the objective is only making money, because if you look at this power developers who have been given permission, particularly in Arunachal, you have transporters, you have some firms which have no experience in power generation. Remember, generating power, developing a dam is a specialized area, and you have in India you don't have too many private players who are specialized in this. So
I think Ratnadev, we are running short of time. Thank you so much for being part of this program.